Voter ID. You hear about it all the time. It seems to be on the news at least once a week, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a week. Lately, it's been in the news. You can find it on social media. You can find it on the big left-leaning news stations. You can find it on Fox. You can find it everywhere. They talk about it on the radio. There's talk show hosts. Everybody talks about voter ID. And there's a lot of people that don't believe that voter ID should be required. And when I mean voter ID, I mean picture, a photograph. Should not be required to vote. Well, I'm totally in disagreement. Say, you know where I stand right now before I start explaining myself, giving you a few little numbers and getting to my point even further. Right now, there's currently 9 states in the United States that absolutely require a photo ID to go and vote. There's no exception. If you don't have a photo ID in these 9 states, Arkansas, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Mississippi, North Carolina, Ohio, Tennessee, and Wisconsin, all those states require a photo ID. Seems like the folks there have got some brain cells working still, and they understand why a photo ID should be used so that you can be identified properly by the people working the polls, and they can ensure that it's your first time and only time to vote for that specific election, that you are who you are, that you're a citizen of the United States of America. I think it's pretty simple. I mean, this is kind of a stupid argument to me, but I'm trying to make some kind of sense out of it, and I'm talking to you about it because it does drive me crazy. But I also stand 100% in my belief, in my opinion, that you've got to have a photo ID to vote. That's where I stand. If you don't have one, I don't think you should be able to vote anywhere in the United States. Now, there's 12 or 14 states right now. The number kind of varies, reading the rules and the laws, that request that you have a photo ID. If you show up and you don't have a photo ID and you have something like a Social Security card or some other identification from something that doesn't have a picture on it, they'll go ahead and check you in and let you vote. So they're halfway there. They haven't quite figured it out, but they're halfway there, and they'll hopefully come right along. Then there's 14 states and the District of Columbia don't require anything at all. You can walk in there, say your Steveo, and vote. And then I wonder, could you walk in there the next day, say it's early voting, and say your Mark, and you're there to vote? You got your uncle or your friend or somebody else's name, and maybe the next day of early voting, or maybe twice or 3 or 4 times. I mean, you go to different polling stations, because early voting, you can usually vote in different areas. So how many times can you go in and vote giving a different name? I kind of wonder. Why? Because in those 14 states in the District of Columbia, they don't require any kind of identification, basically, to get in there and do it. Again, I think photo ID is the only way to go. Now, in February 2026, this month, the House of Representatives brought the Save America Act up for vote. And thank goodness, 218 Republicans and 1 Democrat Mr. Henry Cuellar from Texas voted yes. So the bill passed. It's not a law yet because it's still got to go to the Senate, but it got passed in the House. One Republican voted against it. Thomas Massey out of Kentucky. I don't know. Maybe he hit his head going into to Congress that day. And not one other Democrat voted for it. So what you're telling me is that other than Henry Cuellar, every other Democrat in Congress, the House of Representatives, doesn't believe you need a photo ID to vote. So, do they think you should have a photo ID to drive a car? Do they think you should have a photo ID to get on an airplane, to go on a cruise, to check into a nice hotel room, to open up a bank account, to go and apply for a job? Are you telling me that these grown men and women that were elected to office don't think that you should have to have an ID to vote, a photo ID to vote? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't get that. I'm getting at a loss for words because it makes no sense to me that there's a law that I have to have a picture ID to drive or open a bank account and all of this, but you don't think there should be a law saying you need a photo ID to vote. Now, some people will tell you a lot of people don't have an ID. I don't know how many times I've heard that, read it on social media, had discussions with people on the left that a lot of people don't have a photo ID. I think I just mentioned all the things that you need a photo ID for. Now, I realize not everybody drives a car. I'm pretty sure everybody has a bank account. And I would hope that the majority of people have a job. Now, what about going and getting food stamps, federal assistance? Don't you need an ID for that? But you don't need an ID, a photo ID, to vote. That doesn't make sense. Then I saw something I read yesterday on one of the major social media. This individual commented about all these different countries that don't require a photo ID. Well, one of the things I call that out there when I see something like that, it's a whataboutism. I think we've all heard about whataboutism. And Democrats are real good, and there's quite a few I know that are real good at throwing whataboutisms out at you. If you say something that they make a statement and then you go, well, what about, or this guy, and they go, oh, whataboutism. You can't do a whataboutism. I don't know how many times I've had discussions on social media with some of these Democrats. And I'm not saying all Democrats are that way, but the really hard left-leaning ones, and really the majority of them, they can do it, but I can't do it. And I'm not saying, what about? I'm saying they're the ones that are about the whataboutism, and yet they're sitting here saying, you can't do that. Well, I'm telling you, you can't do that. I don't live in another country. I live in the United States of America. The United States of America is a special, special place to live. Our founders put together a beautiful constitution and gave us a great place to live. There's no other place in the world like the United States of America. It's wonderful. Is it perfect? No. I'll be the first to tell you that. But we all have a chance to do things here. We all have a chance to be successful. I did not come from a whole lot growing up, but I feel like I've been reasonably successful because I worked hard and I did what I needed to do. But another subject again. Back to photo ID. Like I said, now we're waiting on the Senate. It is sitting in the Senate, and the Senate has to vote on it and approve it before it can go to President Trump's desk to be signed into place. And just to make sure that you understand the Save America Act, it would make a requirement in the entire United States, every state, not just the 9 that require it, every state by federal law, you would have to have a photo ID in order to vote. Now, there's another item that I saw that was on CNN, I believe it was on CNN in the last week or so. And they said that the majority of Americans want voter ID, photo voter ID in the country. And so if you've got some 80%, 70% of Americans that are wanting photo ID for voting, then why does 100%, except for Mr. Cuellar, of the Democrats in the House of Representatives not want photo ID for voting? 70%. So only 30% are Republican or right-leaning, or I mean, I don't get it. I'm like, they look at the numbers. The people want photo identification for voting. Now, as I said, it's sitting in the Senate now, and the Senate we're not sure that it's going to get passed there. We haven't heard a lot of positive from the left, and really haven't heard a lot from the right. They're debating, not formally debating, but they're arguing and talking about it. And who knows? The darn thing may not even come up in the Senate. They may never even vote on it. They can do that. They can let it sit there and then let it just go by and not do anything at all and let it just go away. So I wanted to come here and tell you how I feel about photo ID for voting in America. The majority of Americans want it. The House of Representatives, all but one Republican and then one Democrat voted for it. All the Democrats voted against it because they think I need a photo ID for everything else I do, but I don't need a photo ID to vote. And now the Senate's in there thinking about it. Well, my suggestion is get on the horn, call your senators, and tell them to vote yes for photo ID. Send them a letter, send them an email. Hopefully their staff will read it and take it to the senator, and it'll happen. It's important. And part of and again, I'm going to go partly back to, if you don't require an ID at all, how do you know people that are illegal aren't voting? They can learn the language. They can go in and say that they can have a piece of paper that says their name that's there on the voter rolls and vote. So how do you know illegal aliens aren't voting? So, as I said, photo ID should be required for all voting. Now, onto a little bit of a different subject, but another one that I stand very strong on is illegal aliens and supporting ICE and doing what President Trump ran on and promised the American people if he was elected. He said he would get the illegal aliens out, predominantly the criminal illegal aliens. And that would be violent criminals, major criminals. To say that any illegal alien isn't a criminal is wrong. It's false. Why? Isn't illegal still illegal? Doesn't the definition in the dictionary make it very clear that illegal is illegal? So if you snuck into this country, paid a coyote to bring you into this country, did whatever you did, and you're here illegally, you're a criminal. If I go to Mexico illegally, I'm a criminal in Mexico. If I go to Germany illegally, I'm a criminal in Germany. If I go to any other country illegally, I am broken their laws and I'm there illegally. And trust me, they're going to do something to me. They're going to catch me. They're going to arrest me. They may jail me and keep me there for as long as they want. They might decide that I'm some crazed lunatic, or I'm, because I'm military, I'm now working, doing a secret mission going in there. I mean, but you can allow them to come in here and not call them criminal, right? No, wrong. Now, there's a big deal going on. It's been on the news, it's on social media, that they're looking at numbers that were put out of there was approximately 400,000 illegals that were arrested. And I saw somebody post, only 14% were violent criminals? You mean the other 86% aren't violent criminals? Oh, what are we doing? What? What are we doing? Do the math. 400,000 illegals. 14% are violent criminals. That's 56,000 people. Wow. Do you think if I went out and committed a crime as a born and raised American and got arrested, do you think they'd just let me go? Think about it. Do you think they would just let me go? Heck no. They aren't going to just let me go. They're going to go after me, and they're going to prosecute me, and I'm going to spend time in prison. But hey, it's a legal alien, let them go. They do it all the time. They let them out. They let them out on bail. They do all this stuff. They can just skip back to Mexico, skip back to Canada, skip back to Africa, skip whatever country they came from. They can just go back. So 56,000. This guy couldn't understand. He couldn't even argue and admit that he was wrong, that allowing those 56,000 to go. The only way you do it is you got to go out and arrest. Now, let's just say we're in a sanctuary city, and somebody gets out, he's a violent criminal. So now ICE has got to go find him. If they'd have done it in the jail, it could have, one or two guys could have gone in, gotten him, taken him, her, whatever. But no, they let him go. Well, now they got to go into a situation. They don't know what they're doing. They're going to a house, a building, wherever they're going. They don't know if this person's armed. They don't know if there's multiple people there. They don't know what's going on. So now you got 5 or 10 ICE people going. And that gets into all the riot stuff, but I don't want to get into all that today. So they go in, they go to arrest this one person. There's 9 other people in the home. Let's say we're in a home. 9 other people there, and they're all illegal. Do they let them go? Heck no, they're illegal. They arrest them and they get rid of them too. That's why it's not 100% violent criminals. Ding, ding, ding. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to be insulting or ridiculous here, but it's common sense, people. I don't understand why you disagree with ICE arresting illegal criminals, illegal aliens. I don't get it. And I'm sorry, if we're going after one bad guy, and I'm calling myself weird, if the ICE are going in for one guy and there's other illegals there, heck yeah, you're going to arrest him and deport him. You're not doing your job if you don't. Go look it up and see what ICE is supposed to do. That's their job. So get off their rear ends about it. Okay. 14%, 56,000 are violent criminals. And that's all this person that I was reading his information. That's all he said. Well, of that 400,000, 60% have criminal charges or convictions. Did you hear me? 60% of that 400,000 have criminal charges or convictions. That's more than just being here illegally, okay? That's 240,000. Now it's not 56,000, it's 240,000 out of 400,000. But no, we shouldn't be doing that. We should not be arresting these people. They're good, wonderful people. They came here for a better life. They came here illegally. That's the first problem. I'm sticking to my guns here. You came here illegally. My grandparents didn't come here illegally. They came here legally. They had their children here. They raised them. They did it the right way. There are so many Americans out, millions of Americans out there today whose parents, aunts, uncles that came here legally and did things the right way. Come here. We want you here. If you're a good, upstanding citizen, come here. There's people brought here all the time. Now, some of you might be sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute. Coming here legally takes a long time to become legal. I agree. You're right. And we got problems there. Congress needs to get off their rear ends and fix that. And it's been going on for a long time. Republicans, Democrats, they're all to blame. I don't care who you are, you're to blame. If you can't get it fixed, you're all blame. I don't care if you're the Trump administration, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, the Clinton administration, the Reagan, every one of you failed us. And you failed the good, honest immigrants who wanted to come or want to come to this country. You failed the American people and you failed those immigrants because you haven't come up with a simpler way to become a legal U.S. citizen when you come in here legally and immigrate to this country. You need to figure that out. I got a few ideas. Call me, send me an email. I'll come to Congress and talk to you about it. It ain't that difficult. I'm sorry, but it ain't. Back to my point. 240,000, 60% of the 400,000 have some kind of criminal conviction. But we shouldn't be arresting them. So what does that leave us with? That leaves 40%, 160,000 people that are the only law they broke that we know of. They haven't been arrested. They may have broken another law, but the only law we know of that they broke was coming here illegally. Illegal is still illegal. It's what I learned in school. Maybe they don't teach that in school anymore. I'm a little older than a lot of people, so maybe they don't teach that. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff that's taught in the schools today. Another subject, but 160 out of 400,000, 40%, haven't been convicted or charged with the crime. But we should not be arresting them. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I believe, support, will do anything I can, if I can, to help immigrants come here legally. Now, don't blow up my email and stuff and tell me, hey, but hey, I will, like I said, I've got ideas, Congress. I'll give you some ideas if you want to get together. Apparently sending emails sometimes doesn't work because they never get back to you. Not all of them, some of them do, but another subject, another time. 400,000, 240,000 are criminals. The other ones, to me, were collateral. They were the extra people in the house, the car, wherever they were when they arrested the criminal. So for you to sit there on the social media and say, oh, how could you do that? Only 14% are violent criminals. Well, why don't you let those 14% of violent criminals come live in your yard or in your house? It drives me crazy. Common sense tells me they're doing it the right way. Are they perfect? No. If they're getting confronted by other people and having all these problems and fighting all that stuff, they're going to have problems. If sanctuary cities would go away and they'd let them come in and arrest them in the jail, easy peasy, out. You're gone. Okay? Gone. Now, hopefully you get where I stand on that. Before I go, I got one other thing. Today, earlier today, this morning, I had the pleasure of Joanne Linzer coming in and did an interview. She is an attorney here in Montgomery County, where I live, running for judge of the 359th district. We had a great conversation. She taught me some things talking to her, which was awesome. She's a very intelligent, experienced, sharp woman, and I really appreciate her coming. It was like it was a real pleasure and honor to talk to her and have her answer some questions for us about this. This is important to me because this is where I live. I think local elections and local individuals, be it judges or school board or whatever, I think it's important, and we all should pay more attention to that. We should be paying more attention to the local stuff than we do the state and federal, but I'm not saying don't pay attention to it. But local is very important. So I asked Joanne, would she come in for an interview? And we did that this morning. It was great. We have the privilege today of having a local attorney, Montgomery County, Texas, who is seeking office in the 359th District as a judge, Joanne Linzer. She's joining us here today.
Hi.
How has your extensive experience as a prosecutor shaped your view of the actual justice system, and how will that inform your work as a judge?
So that's one of the things that's really interesting. Prosecutors are the people that are supposed to determine justice. They see that justice is done. It's in the Code of Criminal Procedure that is their role. And justice isn't always a conviction. Justice is not always sending someone away for life. What I learned being a prosecutor is, number one, we have to make sure that we uphold the Constitution so that an arrest that might be made is a good arrest. The evidence collected is collected properly. And if you talk to any law enforcement officers, they'll tell you that's what they want to do. They don't want to do it dirty. They don't want to do anything that's illegal or wrong in the pursuit of that justice. And the district attorney's office is sort of that gatekeeper. They make sure that cases are investigated properly and they're done right. They also help make sure that if someone is a repeat offender, that information is brought in so that they can take that into consideration in the punishment of that offense. The district attorney's office has the opportunity to either pursue a case and take it to trial or to plea negotiate a case. And there's many times where a person might just make a mistake. Maybe they have a drug addiction, or maybe they have a mistake that they made, and they feel remorse for what they've done. Or maybe they have a mental health issue that wasn't part of what happened there. Like, we have a lot of folks that suffer from PTSD from their service as a veteran. And the DA's office and the courts have created a veterans court where people get an opportunity to go through that to try to address their problems so they don't commit any crime. And so I think being a prosecutor, I got the opportunity to really evaluate cases and see which ones were cases that needed the book thrown at them, or maybe they needed an opportunity to get redirected so that they could become a contributing citizen. And the other part of that was that I have a heart for, that was a big part of my job as a prosecutor, was handling victim cases. The end of my career as a prosecutor, I primarily handled child sex cases. And those were cases that I took very seriously, to sit and talk to a child about abuse that they had lived, and then to have an opportunity to let their voice be heard. And sometimes kids that no one ever believed were finally believed by a jury. And that was a pretty powerful thing. So I think all those things have shaped me in a way that's allowed me the balance to be able to listen to a case and be able to evaluate that case and determine what should happen. Because the scales of justice are that symbol of our courts for a reason. It's that balance. And I feel like all of the experiences that I've had, whether it was the prosecution or the defense, has allowed me that balance.
You are running as a Republican,
right,
in Montgomery County. And, you talk to people, and again, we're going to go back to the whole political thing. Some people feel like, Republicans think this way, Democrats, conservative,
right,
liberal. How do you if I'm in your courtroom, how do you ensure that I feel comfortable that I'm going to get a fair trial, and it's going to be based on the law, the Constitution, as you mentioned, and not just be made because you're conservative? How do you do that?
Well, and that's interesting because we've seen a lot of people be concerned about Democrat judges in our county. And one of the things that we saw in an election not long ago in Harris County was the Republican judges were replaced by a bunch of Democrat judges. The biggest issue with that was that they didn't have experience. If you don't have experience in a courtroom, you don't know how to make the proper rulings. And what happened in Harris County was we had a lot of people that didn't have the right experience to be on the bench, and they ended up making calls that were not best for public safety. When someone appears in my court, I won't know if they're a Republican or a Democrat, but I will know how to follow the law, and I will know how to interpret the law in a way that is just fair and just.
What's the one thing that you want the voters to remember about you and your vision for Election Day?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that experience matters. And I've been a lawyer for 24 years. I've been board certified in criminal law since 2013, and I've seen both sides. And I think that that's so important because in this race, if people do their research, they'll find out that I passed the bar in 2002 and my opponent passed the bar in 2016. So there's a big difference in our experience. And I think that to me, with experience comes wisdom. It comes opportunities to try cases and to see things and to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes and to be exposed to so many great people and be able to learn from that. And so I feel like that is one of the things I would like voters to know when they go to the ballot. The other thing I want everybody to know, if you haven't decided, don't just gamble with a vote, because people, district court judges, people don't know what they do. And so sometimes they think, well, I've seen that name, so they check it.
Right.
And I would just really caution voters in general, if you're going to go vote for anyone, please make sure you've done your research or you have some kind of connection. You know this person, you know something about them, which is why you're going to vote for them. Because I hear people all the time say, yeah, I went in and I didn't know who to vote for, so I just checked this. And I think that might have been the deciding factor. And we have to be careful.
Yeah, especially in local races.
Yes.
And it's funny, we did not rehearse this.
No.
She just said what she said about making sure you know what you're doing, get involved in your community, learn about who your candidates, your judges, who the people that are running. Because I'll be honest, I've gone into the voting booth before and I didn't know who to vote for, and I left it blank because I felt it was better for me not to vote than to vote for somebody that was the wrong candidate. So if I hadn't taken the time to learn what was going on, then I felt like that was the best choice. So again, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. You don't have to be involved. You don't have to get into politics. You don't have to go to all the chamber meetings and everything else. But get out there and learn about your candidates. If you want to get involved, get involved. But use your local officials to help grow wherever you are. It doesn't mean Montgomery County, Texas only. It's anywhere in the U.S. Get to know your people and use it to help your community to be better, your state to be better, and this country to be better. Joanne, I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
And enjoyed visiting with you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much. And if you want to hear the entire interview and discussion that we had, that'll be posted separately on everywhere podcasts are, on all of our social media. Have a great one. Until I see you next time.